Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Monge and I'm a senior digital strategist at APCO and one of the founding members of Essential Bytes. Just to give you a little context about what Essential Bytes is, this is a place that we created to talk about, things that we're seeing in the industry and things that we're talking about amongst each other, and really wanted to have this place to have these sort of informal jam sessions and co-collaboration sessions so that we're learning from each other, but also learning from everyone watching, and really sort of using the collective brain power to think through some of the biggest issues that we're all facing right now. This is a really unprecedented time in the industry and within communications, and especially as digital strategists, we're really at the forefront of a lot of these discussions and conversations, and wanted a place to talk about them and to share with everyone else, because if we're having these discussions, surely others are as well. And so that's really where it came from. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves as well, and I'll hand it over to Andre first.
Hey everyone, Andre Smith. I'm a director in the APCO's New York office. Really excited to kick this webinar / podcast off. I won't beat a dead horse, and Nicole pretty much captured everything, but this is, I think, will be really engaging for everyone tuning in, and this is a discussion. Once we talk about topics, we want to hear from you, and we also want to hear what else you come up with outside of these topics or even related to these topics. So I was really excited to kick this off.
Absolutely. And we got two Smiths in the house. Dan Smith,
Hi.
work in our DC office, associate director on the digital team as well. And as Nicole and Dre both said, these are conversations we have every day. We'll stop each other with a quick Zoom chat and say, hey, have you seen this? What do you think about this? And we just wanted to share these conversations with you guys and have a chance to broaden the discussion and a little bit more from you, but also to continue to provide the best counsel that we can. I think these are the kind of discussions that are important for us to be having, because as Nicole said, these are unprecedented, challenging times. You guys have heard those words hundreds of times in the past 6 months. So we'll try not to say them too much, but doing everything we can to kind of facilitate a broader conversation about these issues. So thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Unprecedented is like the only word to describe it.
I don't know what else to say either.
But it's certainly been used. So with that, I think we'll dive right in. We have some questions for each other to sort of help facilitate conversation and things that we've been thinking about. But as we said, as we go on and do more sessions, and we really want to hear from everybody. So if there's something you want to learn about, or questions you want to ask us, or things that you want to tune in on, please let us know. Okay, so as we've talked about, unprecedented times. I think something that we talk a lot about and is at the forefront, I think, of a lot of our conversations is during this time, how have we seen brands and organizations and companies use social media both for the good, but then also, have they continued to use it as they were before? What have they shifted? What has that looked like? What do you guys think?
Dre, after you, sir.
Yeah, I think I think what we're seeing now is a heightened level of accountability from brands. Whereas before, they may put out communication that may have been, whether it was insensitive or whether if it, just wasn't fitting in organically with, the current, narrative of the time. Over the past 4.5 months or so, we've seen people actually stand up and be extremely vocal as a collective to brands. I think that, we would hear, one-offs, pockets of individuals, challenging brands, but this collective voice, since we're all, kind of entrenched in the same issues together, no matter how you dice it, we're in this together. I think that collective has literally put immense pressure on brands to actually say, you know what, we actually need to let's rethink what we're going to say, how we say it, and actually think about the ramifications of what we plan to say. So I think that, that level of accountability is something that we haven't seen before. And, not to say that I'm glad that COVID and, some of the other factors have happened, but I think, it was needed. We are at a much needed inflection point.
I completely agree. I mean, if there's a silver lining to everything that's happened in the past year, because 2020 has been a doozy. I think we're in a new era of authenticity, transparency, and accountability on the part of both individuals and organizations. There is a new sort of public social consciousness that I think we previously saw to be more prevalent in younger generations, but it's spread across the country and the world. There are people forcing organizations to be more accountable, and you're not seeing any more of the statements where it's sort of lip service to an issue. You're seeing statements coupled with substantive action, because that's kind of what's required by people at this point. I think that's a great trend that we've seen in terms of the need for organizations to kind of lead the charge there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was something that I was gonna that I've been thinking about too, is this new, and I don't want to call it a trend of authenticity, because like that's not authentic at all, but like this movement towards more authentic ways that that companies and brands are communicating with their audience, but also the actions that they're ultimately taking. I think, for a long time there was we have a CSR initiative, and they would, put out a report every year, and that was all that was really sort of required and expected. And now it's like, we want to see every action that you're going to take, and around every sort of timely issue that it comes about, and you have to show that it is actually a part of who you are and the values that you live. That drives the action that you take, which has been, it's been really interesting to see. And I kind of a follow-up question that I have for you guys, very curious to hear what you guys think, is, do you think there's going to be a new set of like guiding principles that these companies and brands have to like ask themselves before they, put out a communication, or before they, post on their channels or whatever it is? Like, is there going to be sort of a new way in which they think about those sorts of avenues of communication, I guess?
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent question. And that's actually something I mean, we talked about it, I've thought about a lot. I think moving forward, there's going to be a set of, a standard of, are we practicing what we preach, right? Are we, if we're championing diversity and inclusion, before we say that in the external environment, we need to make sure that internally that is absolutely true. Diverse C-suite, fair pay, and also when it comes to just, keep, putting on the hat and really catering to the consumers that they're, marketing to, selling products to, ensuring that, we have individuals in the decision room that are indicative of that demographic, that can help make the right decisions, that can help guide us and make authentic communication. So I think moving forward, yeah, there's going to be a standard of, are we practicing what we preach, before we, get out into the external environment.
Completely agree. I mean, we've talked about this before. Having a CSR initiative, or even those guiding principles, has become table stakes. We now need to see you take that and put it into action. As you said, Dre, I think it's extremely well said. And a lot of organizations that in the past think they could just say, okay, well, we have this commitment to sustainability that we're going to reach by 2050. Now we want to see a concrete plan and steps you are taking yesterday to make that happen. There's no longer the option to sort of set goals that show your commitment and highlight your commitment. We need to see substantive action being taken to reach those goals. And I do think that that's a really important transition for us to make moving forward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with both of you. Do you think that if, brands or companies or organizations hadn't necessarily put that emphasis on these sort of substantive actions before, and they hadn't necessarily had like a diverse C-suite like Andre was talking about, do you think that there is still opportunity for them to do that in a way that is authentic to like who they are? Like, is essentially what I'm asking is like, is it too late to act on some of these things now? And does it seem too advantageous, or is it still like the moment to like reassess the way that you're operating, the values you have, and align with what the like landscape sort of demands at this point?
I don't think it's necessarily too late. You know, you're gonna have people who would view it as opportunistic. It really depends on how authentic and legitimate the commitments are. And I do think that if you have companies that in the past haven't really, as Dre said, practiced what they preach, they're certainly opening themselves up to criticism by coming out now to try to make an authentic change. But I would argue that the risk of not making that change versus just standing pat, the risk of standing pat, I should say, is higher than if they were to come out now and try to make this change. You know, they may have folks who recognize that you should have been doing this 10 years ago. But if they wait another 10 years, it's going to be much worse. But that's just my take. What do you think, Dre?
Well, oh, you got.
Or Nicole. What does Nicole think?
Good. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that I completely agree, but I think that it's, I think there's something to be said for acknowledging, you know, we should have been doing this 10 years ago or whatever it is. You know, this is where we've fallen short and we know that. And this is why we're trying to change, course correct to make it better, you know, however you say it. I think that in order to authentically make that change, I do think there is a level of acknowledgement of what hasn't happened or what hasn't been done or where they haven't put emphasis, I feel is important.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think, you know, first of all, yeah, acknowledging that, you know, past actions, past practices, haven't been indicative of the environment that we all live in and operate in. I think that honestly, it's never too late to course correct and to ensure that, you know, moving forward that, you know, you are taking the proper steps to, you know, become a better, steward of, you know, our society, you know, a better brand, a better company. And like Dan said, I think that, you know, for the brands that do, you know, truly believe this and want to be authentic, the time is now to do it. You know, this year is, like I said earlier, you know, this is an inflection point, you know, for America and just globally, but specifically America. This is an inflection point. And so, you know, this is, you know, events have caused people in brands to become woke, so to speak, right? So yeah, let's go and do it. And, you know, even if it's, you know, this year, 2021, that's okay. I'm okay with somebody, you know, admitting their wrongs and trying to course correct and change.
Totally. And one thing I'll say that I don't know what y'all's experience has been, but with my clients, I've been pleased to either see that they are asking questions about what we think they should be doing to get involved in sort of this sea change that we're seeing, or they are asking questions just to make sure that they're being sensitive to the current environment. And they're also open to our counsel that they need to make these substantive changes and they need to be sensitive to what is absolutely a highly charged, you know, environment online right now. And that is something that maybe wouldn't have been the case before. You know, a lot of organizations that wouldn't necessarily have to become involved in these conversations. They could sit on the sidelines comfortably and not have to get involved. Now they're expressing interest in getting involved without us necessarily even recommending it. And even to be open to our recommendations and to get involved at such a pivotal time, I think is a great step forward.
Yeah, and I'll even build off that. I think, you know, as practitioners, we've you know, experienced a heightened level of strategic counsel during this time, right? And you know, I think it's fair to say that not only, you know, is this a transformative time for brands, I think this is a very transformative time for agencies as well, and practitioners. You know, like the same boldness and authenticity that we, you know, are holding brands accountable for with, you know, internally with other agencies. I think that's along the same lines. And, you know, we also need to look internally. This is a time for us to also be bold as well and provide strategic counsel that we truly believe in and we truly get behind. So yeah, I think that's something to definitely bring up.
Yeah, I it's interesting that you guys like took it that way too, because I totally agree. I think that you know, companies and brands have been like I, I think I want to say it is like positively forced to think about these things and really assess like where their value is in these conversations if they have it, and how they leverage the voice that they already have to actually like impact the good or you know, have a positive effect on the community that they've built or are a part of. But like on the agency side too, it's also you know, pushed everyone as practitioners to be more thoughtful about what the landscape currently is, who are the communities that we're trying to reach, and what actually matters to them. I think that's something that we've always wanted to get the crux at and do quite a lot of research to try and understand that. But now it's even more important than ever because it's such a highly charged landscape, and also, you know, people are dealing with real things right now. Like this is a very real, raw moment for everybody. And as you were saying, Andre, it's an inflection point, and I think everyone's feeling that. And so making sure that there's a lot of a heightened awareness, but also a lot of thoughtful like sensitivity, but like action oriented counsel, and then ultimately action. I think has been interesting to see.
100%. And, you know, it's really in the past when we would counsel organizations, I think the question you would ask is, how does this initiative or campaign ladder up to your strategic priorities? You know, that's something that we have to keep at the center of our counsel. Now, maybe the most pertinent question is, how does this campaign or initiative ladder up to your core values? And are those values in line with the changes that we are seeing in society? And it's probably a little bit of both now, but I don't know that that was as central of a question in the past. And I'm really glad. For me, it's an empowering feeling to say, you know, now we have this opportunity and this avenue to really imbue our communications and our counsel with the values and the aspects of these movements that we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the values, the emphasis on values has been refreshing to see, because I also think it's forced a lot of both people and companies to reassess what their values are and make sure that they actually are able to like truly and authentically live them, and that it's embedded in, or not even embedded, it's infused in every like decision they make and every like part and piece of their company, and the way that they operate, because that's the only way to really authentically live, you know, a corporate value or a company value, is to make sure that it's infused in everything and that you're always living it and that you're always reminded of why it's a value.
Very true.
Agreed.
I was also going to say, we don't always agree. Like, not every time. We will find a time where we disagree. We're going to get into it. I do know that we feel similarly about the trends and the paradigm shift that we're seeing, which I don't think is a bad thing. If we disagreed on this, I would be concerned, but I think this is all positive.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we definitely don't always agree. And truly, those are some of my like most favorite conversations, because it really challenges like my thinking and pushes me and gives me different perspective. But yes, on this, you know, we are aligned.
There we go. I knew someone was going to use that word.
Gotta say aligned. Come on now.
It has to be.
I didn't want to be the first one to say it. I was about to say it when you just finished speaking, but I was like, nah, I'm a chill.
Agree.
Yeah.
It just describes things so well. It's a good word, but it's definitely overused.
I mean, what are we without our buzzwords? You know? Some days that's all I've got.
Hey, they're buzzwords for a reason.
That's right.
Cool. So I'm shifting this a little bit away from like the company and organization lens, and more on the communities and the audience kind of perspective. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So what role do you think social media has had in sort of creating these like societal movements and really like what impact have they had on these rallying cries that we're hearing on a lot of different topics. But I think that especially growing up in the generation that I did and that we all did, social media plays a big role in how I get information and like how I'm communicating with my peers. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about like social media's role in these sorts of movements.
I would say I can start and just say, it's central in that it is for many people their source of information and news, and it is an area in which you can create and facilitate the environment that you want to see and the information that you want to receive to an extent. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, I do think there are a lot of echo chambers out there that are telling people the stories they want to hear. You can also say that social media has contributed to knowledge sharing unlike anything we've ever seen, and really important information about health and safety concerns amidst the events of the past year. It's also contributed to rampant disinformation. It's a platform that the proliferation of information seems kind of limitless. And so in those ways, there's a lot of good and bad that comes with it. And so I think what we're all wrestling with, and platforms clearly are wrestling with as well, is how do you separate the wheat from the chaff and start to give people the best and most accurate information without censoring. I don't think there's an easy answer, and sorry to kick it to you, Dre, with a difficult question, but that's kind of where I'm at with it is what that fundamental question of what now that we've created these vehicles for mass communication.
Yeah, definitely a difficult question. So I guess how
it'll be easy.
Yeah,
yeah. We're in it now.
Yeah, right. Think of it. I think that yeah, I mean, all the points that you touched on is absolutely true and accurate. I think that now because of what's been going on with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, we've been able to see these platforms reassess how they function and how they operate in people's lives. Social media is literally infused in everything that we do. Especially for our generation, we grew up with it. I remember, the big thing about going to college was just Facebook, and that was like 3 years after it was launched. Like that was what it was. So we've seen from inception up until now the growth and just how impactful it's been. But now, because of these events over the past 4.5 months, I think for the first time, it is what we're hearing and seeing is what level of responsibility do these big social media entities and platforms have in our society. And we've seen, and because social media and just the nature of us being people being able to come together as a collective and either voice information, voice their feelings, but also perpetuate misinformation, that has been a perfect storm of, hey, we need to figure out some sort of standard moving forward. I don't have the answer of what that standard is, but I think over the next 6 to 15 months, we will definitely see concrete actions and steps being implemented to ensure that these companies are walking that fine line between not totally censoring, but just ensuring that we are being responsible as the purveyors of conversation and information on a mass scale.
100%. And I'll just say, I do think in the time that I've been working in communications, so going on 7 years, there have been some fundamental changes in how these platforms are addressing issues. I mean, if you go back to 2013, 2014, fake accounts were rampant across platforms. Bots, the whole rise of people using these accounts to spread disinformation. Platforms have done a lot to deal with that. The concept of political advertising being flagged as such, that was only a couple of years ago. And those policies are changing every day. I mean, even the COVID-19 policies that we've seen in terms of what brands and organizations can promote content that are related to it. It is something that it feels a little don't know if it's the right word, Sisyphean, in that we're always going to be kind of trying to catch up and play catch up with the spread of information. But I do think there's a lot that is being done by these platforms, and it's on us to keep up with kind of the latest policies and finding out what makes the most sense for our clients.
In recent months, but truly even recent years, we've seen an increase in people calling for responsibility around content that's being put out on these platforms, and making sure that it's not contributing to hate speech, it's not contributing to misinformation, especially as we've seen around some of the issues that we've seen in the past couple of months, and around political campaigns. Whose responsibility do you think this is? Is it the responsibility of the corporations? Is it the responsibility of the platforms? Or is it the responsibility of the community? What do you guys think?
I'll just say I think it's, short answer, collective. The onus of responsibility makes sense for it to be on the platforms because they've created these vehicles for knowledge sharing and the spread of information. But we are all, responsible for creating a community that, is positive, that is, at the end of the day, sharing accurate information, that strives to avoid some of the issues that we've seen with disinformation and hate speech and things which can be really harmful to the users and the communities that are on there. And corporations, I think now with the outsized focus on social responsibility, have a unique opportunity to play more of a role in dictating the policies that we're seeing. And so we talked about this at the beginning of the show today. This is an inflection point. This is a paradigm shift. This is a huge opportunity for everybody involved to take more collective responsibility for creating a community that we want to be a part of. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much that platforms can do to create those kind of communities for us. I think it's on all of us to be a part of that change and solution.
Yeah. And, for the first time, like you said, it is a collective to be more responsible. However, we have been seeing over the past, month or so, corporations putting the pressure on, social media platforms and entities to rethink how they move forward when it comes to responsibility and the dissemination of information or misinformation as well. So I think that, that type of pressure we've never seen before. I think that we need to, this will be a time for, over the next 4 to 6 months, this is be really pivotal for a lot of these platforms on, setting clear agendas on how to move forward and how to just be responsible within this operating environment.
Definitely. And if I can just add one thing, I have been pleased to see, again, at least my experience with my clients, is they've been willing to set aside goals for the year, messaging for a given month, campaigns they were planning to run because they recognize what a seminal moment this is. And that is, really positive and encouraging to see that we're in that place where, if anything, they're trying to revise their strategy to reflect the shift that we're seeing, and to be a part of that. And hopefully we can provide the counsel that leads them toward that at the end of the day. I think obviously we have a fundamental role there too. So it's a great opportunity for all of us. Is how I'm going to choose to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the point you just made is a really good one, in that in collective responsibility, that's like on us too, as counselors and strategists and thought partners with our clients, to help them think through these sorts of things. And it's a role that we play as well, which I think is important to remember.
Completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, last word, episode 1. Yeah. I feel like we talked about a lot. Ray, what you got for us?
I really hope that, today's topics, the conversation continues. Please, discuss, feel free to add in anything that we did not discuss that is, related to some of the topics that we touched on today. But yeah, episode 1 is a wrap, and this is it. I feel great.
Absolutely. Hey, looking forward to keeping it coming. And like
Mhm.
Dre said, bring us your questions. Bring us the tough ones.
Yeah.
We may not have the best answer, but we will have an answer, and we'll see what we can do and have these conversations. We're excited to go on this journey with y'all.
And just to add, to periodically we'll have people from outside of APCO or other colleagues join us as well, so that we're bringing in, a diverse set of perspectives. So if you ever want to be a part of it or want to have a conversation with us, we welcome that too. But yes, please submit questions, things you want to learn more about, things you want to talk about or hear about. We welcome them.
Yep.
Great. See you next time.
Peace.
Hey guys, Andre here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Remember, we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts on future topics, if you want to join the show. And of course, as always, we want you to keep the conversation going. See you in the next episode of Essential Bytes. Cheers.